Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you're all healthy. My students, I want to start lesson Unit 1, Chapter 1, Lesson 1, Subject How Organisms Grow, page 18. How organisms grow, or how you begin life. You begin life as a single cell. That one cell divides into two cells. The two cells divide into four cells. The four cells into 8 cells, and so on. By the time you were born, your body was already made up of billions of cells. Example, a chick. A chick began the life as an egg, a single cell. After 5 days, the single cell has divided into many cells. After 8 days, eyes begin to develop. After 14 days, the chick has developed tiny feather. After 21 days, the chick is fully developed. All organisms begin life as single cell. Single cell divide into two cells. Two cells divide into four cells. Four cells divide into 8 cells, and so on. By the time you are an adult, your body will have more than 100 trillion cells. It might be hard to observe, but you are probably a little taller than you were a month ago. In that short time, your bone cells have divided again and again to make more bone tissue. Muscle and skin cells have also been dividing. As cells throughout your body continue dividing, your body will continue growing. By the time you are adult, you will have more than 100 trillion cells. You know that body systems are made up of organs, organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells. The cells that make up each tissue have specific function as a part of an organ. So when bone cells divide, for example, they must produce cells exactly like themselves. Nearly all body cells produce exact copies of themselves. Each cell have a specific function, have a specific size and shape. Why do bone cells make exact copies of themselves? The answer of this question: producing identical cells enable new cells to perform the same functions as older cells. Okay, my students, another subject, page 19, cell division. Every square centimeter of your skin has about 150,000 skin cells. The top layer of skin is damaged by contact with its surroundings, so its cells are always dying. Functionally, skin cells reproduce quickly and replace the dead cells. In fact, the surface layer of your skin will be replaced twice today. Like most cells, skin cells reproduce by dividing in two. You know that the nucleus, you know the function of the nucleus, control everything a cell. Nucleus control everything the cell. This is the function of the nucleus. Inside the nucleus are thread-like strands. Each strand is called chromosome. What are the chromosomes? Inside the nucleus are thread-like strands. Each strand is called a chromosome. Each strand inside the nucleus are thread-like strands. Each strand is called chromosome. Chromosomes are made up of chemical called DNA. Inside chromosome have DNA. The function of the DNA determines the shape and function of a cell. Or Why are important? Why are important? Why are they important to cell? This code, you can answer me, this code determines the shape and function of a cell. It also determines when a cell will divide. Whenever a cell divides each new cell. If another question, what happens in the nucleus before a cell divides? Each new cell must get an exact copy of the parent cell's chromosomes. Having an identical set of chromosomes gives each new scan cell, for example, the same DNA code as its parent cell. This ensures that it will look and act like older scan cells. Another subject, mitosis. What is the definition of mitosis? What is the mitosis? Mitosis is the process of cell division. What are the phases of the mitosis? Number 1, prophase. Number 2, prometaphase. Number 3, metaphase. Number 4, anaphase. Number 5, telophase. Number 6, cytokinesis. What happens in the prophase? What happens in the before mitosis? Before mitosis, the chromosomes made up of DNA make copies of themselves. Each chromosome and its copy are connected. But what happens in the prometaphase? Prometaphase, as mitosis begins, that chromosomes grow thick and short. Thick and short. The nuclear membrane disappears. But what happens in the metaphase? A network of thin tubes called a spindle forms as the spindle gets longer the chromosomes and their attack copies from a straight line in the middle of the cell. Straight line middle in the cell. Middle of the cell. But what happens in the anaphase? Anaphase, the spindle shortens and the chromosomes copy separate. One chromosome from each copy pair moves to one side of the cell while the other chromosome moves to the other side. What happens in the telophase? As mitosis ends, the spindle falls apart. The cell membrane begins to pinch and creating two new cells. A mitosis in the telophase, as the mitosis ends, the spindle falls apart and the cell membrane begins to pinch to creating two new cells. And what happens in the cytokinesis? After mitosis, the chromosomes grow and longer inside each nucleus. Each new cell now copy its own chromosomes. Which are the phases that as mitosis begins? You can answer me prometaphase. Which phases a spindle making of a spindle? You can answer me metaphase. Metaphase, a network of thin tubes called a spindle. This is spindle. Which phases are chromosomes separate from moves to one side of the another side? You can answer me anaphase. Which phases as mitosis ends telophase? Another subject, page 20, regeneration. Regeneration, at one time or another you have probably scraped your knee or cut your finger. If you cleaned your wound and keep it clean, after a few days all signs of the wound vanished. As soon as your body is wounded, it begins repairing itself. Healing is a kind of regeneration or tissue replacement. Skin cells divide and regenerated skin grows over The cut in humans regeneration is limited mostly to healing wounds, but plants and some animals, however, can regenerate major body parts, but humans can't regenerate major body parts. Just plants and some types of animals can regenerate major body parts. Example about the starfish. Starfish escape a hungry predator by dropping one of its arms. When regeneration is complete, the starfish will have a new arm. Regeneration, the major body parts by cell division, by mitosis. How does mitosis help heal a wound? Healing is a kind of regeneration or tissue replacement. By cell division. Regeneration major body parts or regeneration wound by cell uh, division, mitosis. Another subject, asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, many one-celled organisms such as bacteria, protozoa, were produced by simple cell division or fission. Asexual reproduction. What is the asexual reproduction? Example about asexual reproduction, bacteria, protozoa, euglena, most single cell reproduced by asexual reproduction. We have two types of reproduction in the of the organisms. Two types of reproduction of the organisms. All organisms reproduction, but two ways. Number one, asexual reproduction. Number two, sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction without the joining of male and female cells is called asexual reproduction. Example about asexual reproduction, bacteria, protozoa, euglena, paramecium, most single cell. Asexual reproduction have two ways. Number one, fission, another name fission, simple cell division. And number two, budding. Number two, budding. Yeast is a one-celled fungus who produces asexual reproduction by a process from a budding. Okay. What are the two ways of asexual reproduction? Fission. Example fission, bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, one-celled organism that in lake and ponds. This paramecium is the process of reproduce asexually from fission. But yeast is reproduction, asexual reproduction from budding. Types of asexual reproduction. This fission occurs in one-cell organisms such as an amoeba, paramecium, the nucleus divided by mitosis and the cytoplasm divided, forming two new daughter cells of equal size. But other types of reproduction, sexual reproduction. Most organisms are reproduced bisexually. Sexual reproduction. What is the sexual reproduction? Cells from two parent units to form one cell need two parents, but asexual reproduction needed one parent without the joining male and female cells. But sexual reproduction, cells from two parent units to form one cells need two parents to produce offspring. Called a zygote. What is there contained zygote? What is there contained in the zygote? The zygote contains chromosomes from both the female parent and male parent. Zygote. This is zygote that contains chromosomes from both the parents, female parent and male parent. Nearly all human body cells have 46 chromosomes each. If a body cell has more or fewer than 46 chromosomes, it won't function properly. If two body cells were to unite, the zygote that formed would have 92 chromosomes. Every body cell would then have 92 chromosomes instead of 46 in the next generation. The zygote and all the body of cells would each have 184 chromosomes, and so on. The sexual reproduction. Plants, pollen, it means seed, and egg joining to produce offspring. What is the difference between sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction? All organisms reproduce, but have two ways to reproduce, sexual and asexual. Most single cells reproduce by asexual reproduction, but most animals and plants, humans, reproduce by sexual. What is asexual? Sexual is with the joining of male and female cells, but asexual is without joining male and female cells. Sexual needed two parents, but asexual needed just one parent. Example about sexual human, most animals, plants, but example about asexual, most single-cell bacteria, amoeba, yeast, sperms, and protozoa. Asexual reproduction have two ways, budding and fission. And two types of cell division, mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis is the process of cell division, but meiosis is a process that reduces the number of chromosomes in reproductive cells. In the first stage of meiosis, of cell copies its chromosomes and divides. Both of the new cells have 46 chromosomes. This process is similar to mitosis. In the second stage of the meiosis, the two cells divide again. However, this time they do not copy their chromosomes first. Each of the four new cells. What are the gametes? Gametes is a reproductive cells or gamete. What are the gametes? Have half the number of chromosomes that are in a body cell. Gametes have half the number of chromosomes that are in a body cell. What is the difference between meiosis and mitosis? Meiosis is the process that reduces the number of chromosomes in reproductive cells. But meiosis is the process of cell division. Meiosis involves two cell division, but mitosis involves just one cell division. Meiosis, two cell division, creating four new cells, but mitosis creating two new cells. Another subject, page 26, inherited trait. From parent to offspring. What is an inherited trait? Inherited trait, a characteristic that is passed from parent to offspring, is an inherited trait. Example about inherited trait: for hair color, eye color, fur color, shape of nose, shape of mouth, shape of ear, tall and short. Okay, my people, how characteristics are inherited? Gregor Mendel, he is a scientist. He observed that some pea plants were tall while others were short. He also observed that some plants produced green peas and others produced yellow peas. He knew that traits were inherited, but he didn't understand how. In 1857, Mendel began experimenting by breeding different pea plants. This is called crossbreeding. He kept a detailed records of his results, which were published in 1865, Mendel first bred a tall pea plant with a short pea plant. All the offspring the first generation were tall plants. He then bred two of these tall plants. In the second generation, three-fourths of the offspring were tall and one-fourth were short. What did Mendel hypothesize about inherited traits? Mendel hypothesized Mendel hypothesized that every trait is controlled by a pair of factors. For each trait, an offspring inherits one factor from each parent. The way the factors combine determines which trait appears in the offspring. Mendel future hypothesized that the first generation pea plants must have a hidden factor for shortness. Why? In the second generation, one-fourth of the offspring were short. In peas, tallness is a strong trait, or this is dominant trait. Dominant trait is a strong trait, but a recessive trait is a weak trait. Example about recessive trait: shortness and small ear and light colored, but dominant trait is tall, include tall and shape large and darkness color. This is in the group dominant. Factors for both dominant and recessive traits may occur in an organism's chromosomes. Example: this is I capital dominant trait, but a small recessive trait. Each parent have dominant and another parent have recessive. The produced offspring 25% dominant and 25% are recessive, but 15% of dominant and recessive. Both traits dominant and recessive. What are the genes? Today, Mendel's factors are called genes. Genes contain the DNA codes for all the traits an organism inherited. Genes are on chromosomes. Genes are on chromosomes. The inside nucleus have chromosomes. The inside the chromosome have DNA. The are on the chromosomes have genes. The genes for a particular trait always occupy the same place on a chromosome. In wool, rabbit's dark brown fur is a dominant trait. Light brown fur is a recessive trait. If a rabbit inherits even one gene for dark brown fur, it will have brown fur. Mendel's hidden factor were genes for recessive trait. Offspring must inherit two genes for recessive trait. One from each parent. For a recessive trait to be seen, you can use a chart to calculate the chance that an offspring will inherit a particular combination of genes. Okay, my pupils, finished the lesson. I hope it was a useful lesson.